Hello everyone and welcome to the Audi R8 LMS car profile, a Group 3 car that we are looking at next, and a very interesting car. So it's an MR car, it's exactly the same as the Alfa Romeo, engine in the back, rear wheel drive, well sort of middle towards the back and then rear wheel drive. So we're expecting it to handle very similar. Now this car, very interesting findings once again. It seems every time we do these we find something interesting and new. Of course this is based on a real world car. It's not a Vision Gran Turismo car in the fact that it does exist in real life. This is actually the second generation. Of course the first generation, a bit more oval. But yeah, let's get right into those car profiles. Same as usual, we're going to jump to Brands Hatch first of all. And here we go. So coming into this first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, you can just see the car turns very nicely. Not a huge amount of understeer, there's a tiny bit there, but nothing to really worry about. Now, the one thing with this car you have to worry about is lift off oversteer. Yes, I said that, lift off oversteer. It's actually weight transfer just in general. Obviously, if you lift off the throttle, you're going to get lift off oversteer. You brake and then come off the brake. Again, you're going to have some weight transfer in there. The car doesn't like weight transfer. So you see on the right hand side I've got a load of 123s and a 132, and then the laps have been here, there and everywhere. It's literally because of that. It's a very hard car to control. You have to be doing something. You can't just let this car roll, otherwise there's loads of issues. So you're either braking or accelerating, you're controlling the weight. The second half of this lap isn't the best, but that's why we also look at optimal lap times, remember, not just the fastest lap. Through this final section we go into the last sector now. Run extremely wide here, look at all that time disappear. However, again, optimal times, not fastest laps. And of course we're near the end of the session, so we've already done our optimal in this last sector already. I did an extra lap here at Brands just to find out, get used to the car a bit more. I haven't played GT that much. I'd of course try and get rank 1 beforehand on another session, and as you see there, a 122.2 is what we go down to. I actually did another lap, but I span on that, as you can see by my sector 2. So to Dragon Trail. So at Dragon Trail we're looking to test curbs, stability in the right hander at the end of sector 2, and of course you can sort of tell the speed of a car here as well. So first of all, curbs. Doesn't mind actually touching the curbs or using the curbs, so a bit different to the Alfa where touching curbs made the rear go all over the place and such. This car doesn't mind it, but again you've got to be careful about doing something rather than not doing anything in this car. Now to go fast you've always got to be doing something, so if you can do that this car is easy to handle. If you can't do that it's ridiculously hard. Now with this car, because it's an MR, I was expecting here to have the same issue as the Alfa in the chicane, and I do have that same issue. Actually, before we get there, just to show you how stable this car is on acceleration actually, because it's ridiculously stable. Watch how quick I get on the throttle here. Straight on. No issues, no oversteer at all. It's really good for that. So if you're looking for no power or oversteer, the car for you is this Audi. But in this chicane, it's very difficult. You can see I have to lift off. I have to try and make sure I don't hit that curb square on, because if I do, the car goes flying. You can see on my right hand side I got a 144, 147, 149. I was having issues with the chicane. Fortunately I did it really well this lap, and as we come around the last corner again you can see no issues with power oversteer. So it's very stable in that sense, it's just not stable with weight transfer in the car, so braking and lifting off the throttle. And as you see we get a 136.990, so just under that 37 marker there for the optimal. So we go to Interlagos, and as you see it's a very early lap, and again it's a little bit of curbs, a little bit of the weight transfer here. So the first thing here is I do this first part very different to any other car, and it seems to get a really good sector. Couldn't really match it. I matched it a couple of times after, but not too many times. Very hard to nail, so this is a pretty good sector 1 in this Audi R8. Coming through here, you might remember in some cars, just going off the exit here, that light green or dark green stuff, sorry, will cause the car to spin. Not in this case. The Audi can grip that fairly well and get through it fine. So at Interlagos, it's a fairly risk-free car in terms of you can run wide in places. Bit unstable here occasionally. That wasn't too bad. And into here, you do want to do first gear, and then I should be up to second, but I stay in first here. I'll find that out later on, and again, that's why we do optimal. We don't have any issues there with stability coming out of that corner. We had issues in other cars, especially you know, the Lexus. It struggled a little bit, and the Aston as well. Through here, of course, got to be careful of the bump. Remember, we just go to half throttle. That's all, no problem really. You can see we nearly run wide, and then into this last sector. Just see my problem here on the last corner there, because I already had a bit of weight movement under braking. It made the rear unstable for the entire of the corner, so it looks over dramatic, which is why I lost 2 tenths in that last sector. Again, we look at optimal, so don't worry about that too much on this lap. You can see we're down to a 1:31.0 on our optimal. That goes down a tiny bit more, but not that much more. As you see, it goes down to a 0.024, and you can see we get that later on. So you can see, you know, we're getting our optimals fair game. So Nurburgring GP, here's more of a balanced circuit, but again, we're going to have issues with the weight transfer of the car, especially in this first sector. Now coming out of here, it's stable on the throttle. Just hit the limiter there on this lap, particularly. As you can see, we're a bit behind, but we do catch that up. And you can see in a second just how wide we go as well. So it's very fine through here, no problem. I say it's very stable on the throttle. Through there we go. Just run a bit too wide in my opinion, but even so we can continue on. 35.9, so we are slightly down on the Lexus, so it is lacking a little bit of power, and we can look at that in the spreadsheet afterwards. Again, all fine here. I'm either on the brake or on the throttle. I had to change my driving style for this car just to get used to it, so that's why the times are a bit more varied. You can see on the right side we've got a 2:10 and a 2:0 dead there. Again, they were spins. We got a 1:57.6. That was me going wide somewhere. No, it wasn't. I slid in a corner coming up. I'll explain that in a second. So through here we go, flat out. Car is stable when flat out, no problem at all. Now this corner is tricky because you roll in this corner. You never really go power on. But you see, I'm having to go power on really early. Again, I'm braking a little bit, I'm rolling, and then I'm going again. Now that roll there made the car a little bit unstable, so you've got to be careful of that. But because I wasn't 100% brake and it was just 20% brake, the car could handle it a lot better. If it was 100% brake then roll, the rear would have been all over the place. Into the chicane, struggled a little bit with the chicane, you'll see that here. Had to back off the throttle a little bit. Again, that's the weight transfer of an MR car. Engine in the rear, the front just wants to lift, no weight over the front at all. So when you hit that curb, the front end just goes flying a little bit, so it's a bit unstable in that sense. But even so, we cross the line. That's a 1:55.3, 1:55.217 on the optimal there. I can't remember what our optimal goes to. Yeah, it is to 2:17, and you can see there we actually lap 9, one of our best laps, which is what I showed you. So Suzuka, the final one. I knew this would be tricky here. Trail braking now. Obviously trail braking in this car. We've already got issues with weight transfer. We're full throttle. We're about to go into trail braking mode into this corner. Now I struggled like, there you go. You see that lift off? 100% to 0 with the braking? Exactly what I'm talking about. This car is a nightmare with weight transfer. So if you are going to use this car, you're really going to have to perfect that. You saw it in the first corner, and you see on my laps on the right, a 2:03. I span on the first lap, I span on the second, or nearly span on the second lap, and then I'm slowly getting into it. And I span a number of times on that first corner because the rear just wants to come all over the place. Not the best first sector, that's actually a 33.1, I think, my best. But the rest of the lap is pretty good, so that's why this is the fastest lap. Through Tidgney 1 and Tidgney 2, no problems here. Very good car for this actually. Tidgney 2 especially, you can just flat out it. Look at that, no issues. Other cars seem to lose the back ends. Like Interlagos, like here, it can use the curbs, the AstroTurf to its advantage. Now into the hairpin. Now the hairpin, I get this slightly wrong on this lap, but the car grips quite quickly so we can accelerate out of there, no problem at all. But we are significantly down on the Lexus that we showed last week. Continuing on to Spoon. Now Spoon, again, a quite tricky corner, but you do trail brake more. You see I went to 20% and then off rather than 100 to off like I did in the first corner. That first corner is very difficult. And as I mentioned, weight transfer, big issue in this car. So do keep that in mind when using it. So we continue on towards 130R. Speed trap 155 again. I am going to change the speed trap. I don't think it's very reliable. Through here we go, 147, so we're maintaining a very high apex speed there into the final chicane here. Quite tricky, this chicane, again, just because of the curb, the front end just wants to lift a little bit, but then you can flat out it out. No issues again with the AstroTurf, so head towards the line. We get a 159.3, which goes, I think our optimum goes down to a 159.0, from memory, so let's have a look at that now. 159,052. So you can see a wide variety of sectors there, and it was a 33.1. However, here is the spreadsheet in order. So the Audi comes in third place, very similar to the Aston in terms of time, very similar to the Alfa in terms of the car. So first of all, let's have a look at the power. It's 91% power, so it's been nerfed to hell, and its weight is 108. So I'm thinking that nerf that's happened has actually caused the car to be a bit more unstable. I could be wrong, but that's what it feels like. So potentially they need to change the settings of the car a little bit, perhaps. I'm not too sure. So you can see all the optimums there. So we go up to an 824.5. 8 tenths behind the Alfa, and then over nearly 2 seconds behind the Lexus. Now I think the Audi should be closer to that Alfa than it currently is. I've given it a risk indicator of 4. Now the reason for this, you're probably wondering, because it doesn't have power oversteer, so you're probably thinking, well, why is it a 4? It's the very strange lift off oversteer, or the way the weight transfers in the car. You're gonna have to be careful in this thing. I can control it a bit easier, but if you're struggling with GT Sports in any other cars, you're going to struggle in this Audi R8. So do keep that in mind. Brake balance seems to be set slightly to the rear, so as every time I was coming into the corners, the rear did get a bit twitchy. Again, that's just a weight transfer, possibly. However, it could be the brake balance, so I did put that in there. If somebody did ask what I would do to the brake balance if I was driving this car, I'd put it to the front straight away. The more at the front, the better. As I said, it's very easy to get on the power, so don't worry about power oversteer in this car. And as I've already said as well, it suffers from just slightly hitting the curbs. If you square onto a curb and you hit it, the front is going to go flying compared to an FR car, which is what we expect anyway. It's a very, very easy car to catch. You saw that at Nurburgring. While you do lose it at Suzuka, you can catch it. You saw that at the first corner and also at the hairpin. So another very interesting car profile there for you. We've got more coming this week, and next up is the Mitsubishi, I believe, at a request. We've got a load of requests now, so if you do request any, it's going to be happening in about 4 weeks' time if you've got a request. Hope you enjoyed that video. Another car, the car profile playlist is there if you want to watch another one. My logo's there if you want to subscribe. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.